Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Welcome everybody to the Islamic School League of America, co-hosted with Legacy International Online High School, a panel about Muslim college life for high schoolers, their parents. I know that we have some school leaders and teachers here too. So thank you all so much for joining us on this Wednesday evening as we anticipate the arrival of Ramadan. I know you have a lot going on, and we want to try and keep this program to an hour with a few minutes here and there. If you have some pressing questions, we want to give you time to ask those, inshallah, and get those answers. We have an amazing panel here today, mashallah, and we can't wait to introduce the people to you all and have them talk about some really important topics that, inshallah, will give you some guidance on how to choose the best fitting college for you, how to maintain your faith on campus, inshallah, whether you're living on campus or you're driving and commuting. What are the resources out there, Muslim chaplains and community? And also, what are the benefits? We know that a lot of times our Muslim families will really stress the medical profession and legal profession. What benefits do we have with a liberal arts college? We have somebody from Zaytuna College here as well today. So we look forward to sharing all that information with you, inshallah. First, I want to give you a little bit of information about myself. I'm Dr. Shahza Khan, and Sister Salmah is our co-host here. There we go. Here's our schedule. I want to introduce myself and the Islamic Schools League of America to you. I have I graduated from a public school. I didn't have a full-time Islamic school, and I went to a local private liberal arts college first for my undergrad, and then I pursued my PhD at a private university in my hometown and was a commuter. But definitely some of the questions I had was, how do I make friends here? How do I fit in? How do I find my space? How do I explore my passion? So this is definitely something that I've always, been really interested in, even as a young person, and wish I had this kind of guidance. I now serve as the executive director of the Islamic Schools League of America, which is a nonprofit that supports full-time Islamic schools. Now, of course, we do programs like this where we try and reach out and provide benefit to all of our Muslim students, whether you're in private school, homeschool, or public school, because a lot of the issues and questions we have are the same, inshallah. So we hope that this is going to be a program that benefits you all. But definitely also, this was something that came out of the research that ISLA does. ISLA engages in foundational research on Islamic education. We do professional development and webinars like this. We do networking for Islamic school educators. And we recently did some research with Islamic school alumni who said, you know what, we really wanted a little bit more guidance on college selection. And here we are, alhamdulillah, with an amazing panel to provide that kind of guidance, inshallah. So I'm actually going to ask Salmah, if you go back to the previous slide, there's our schedule. So inshallah, we hope to have about 5 to 10 minutes, about 10 minutes each for each panelist. We're going to have 4 panelists, inshallah, and still leave time for question and answer. We want to ask you to use the chat function throughout to ask questions. We are recording this and hope to be able to provide this to you all for access later on too, for the Islamic school leaders who weren't able to share this with their high school juniors, seniors, sophomores. Inshallah will provide the recording so that you can use it later as a resource. But we're going to save the question and answer for the end, but we ask you to go ahead and put it in the chat, inshallah. And if there's something that seems really timely and important for us to ask, I'll go ahead and ask the presenter to respond to that before they pass the baton to the next presenter. So that's just a little bit about our norms. And we're going to ask you to stay on mute until the question and answer, at which time you can unmute. All right, so going to our first panelist, Brother Salman Khan. No, this is not the famous Bollywood star. And I'm so sorry, Brother Salman Khan, because you probably hear that all the time. And you're probably really tired of that. But Brother Salman Khan is absolutely an extraordinary person that I have been so blessed to meet and talk to. He is the founder of an organization called Muslim Campus Life. Yes, we did kind of cheat and use his name, this really cool name, Muslim Campus Life, to title our program for today. Brother Salman Khan created this organization, which is dedicated to advocating for Muslim student needs on college campuses. He's going to share a little bit more about that with you. He's also a certified college counselor, a former admissions reader at one of the most selective colleges in the country. He's also a PhD student in education at Harvard University, studying education policy, amongst many other amazing things. We are so happy to welcome you, Brother Salman Khan, to this program, and we look forward to your presentation on choosing a college that fits.
Yeah, Jazakallah, thank you so much for the invitation and the generous introduction. It's really great to be here with all of you. I'm really excited for the conversation tonight. So as Sister Shaza mentioned, I just want to emphasize, definitely ask the questions that you have and put them in the chat box at the very least. So first things first, Muslim Campus Life is an organization dedicated to serving Muslim student needs and really advocating for Muslim student needs on college campuses. And I just want to flag that we are an official partner with the Association of Muslim Chaplains. So I have the pleasure of working with folks like Dr. Nisa, who's going to be speaking in just a moment. To get started, a lot of what I'm going to talk about in the next few slides is actually already publicly and freely available through the Muslim College Guide, which is a free resource that we developed in conjunction with chaplains and higher education staff. So feel free to check that out, inshallah, and share that with students, parents, family members, staff. I think it's a very simple resource that can really help elevate the conversation and provide a good starting point. So with that, we'll jump in, inshallah. Next slide. So I just want to talk very briefly about, what does it mean to find the best college? And there's so many different resources you can explore to talk about this. And there's so many factors to consider with the college that sometimes students, parents, even school staff maybe don't think about. So obviously, a lot of people think about prestige, how high does the college rank? How strong is their academic program? The location, obviously, within the Muslim community. We know there's a lot of preference for colleges that are sometimes closer to home. Campus size, career services, employment rates, student organizations, whether or not there's a chaplain on campus. All of this to say that there's just so much to navigate. And it's important that you do your research, right? Because there's some people think, just go get your degree, graduate, move on, and that's enough. But college can really be a formative experience, and it's important that you kind of think about what is the right environment for you. And so a lot of times Muslim students who attend an Islamic school, for example, might be coming from an environment where the class size is quite small, right? And so for them to go to a campus that's a lot larger, for example, I went to Rutgers University for undergrad, which has over 30,000 students, right? It's quite a large campus. You have to take buses between the campus to get from one place to another. And so that might be a shock factor for some students, right? And not for all students, but for some students. So just being critical about these things beforehand is incredibly important. And I just want to flag this important quote here at the bottom. The #1 school may not be #1 for you, right? And I think this is a really, really important point for students who are really trying to aim high and maybe get into an Ivy League or top tier college. You still have to think about whether or not that environment is right for you. And so, for example, there's some schools, some Ivy League schools, for example, that are in very, somewhat remote locations. And that may not be ideal because the number of Muslim students on campus may be very small. And so thinking about those things is incredibly important. So thinking beyond just prestige, I would say, is incredibly important. Let's jump to the next slide. So there's 3 primary considerations. And again, we break this down in the Muslim College Guide, I think, fairly well. I'll just touch on some of the points here. Obviously, academic fit is incredibly important. If you are someone who wants to do more liberal arts, which we'll hear about from Brother Faisal in just a moment, you shouldn't go to a technical college, right? And so applying to your local technical college, like in the East Coast, NJIT or NYIT, those sorts of universities probably aren't a good fit, right? And so thinking very clearly about what your academic goals are beforehand is incredibly important. And just having a sense, you don't have to know exactly what your major is going to be, but at least having a sense of, okay, I'm more STEM oriented, so I'm going to look at these sorts of colleges. I'm more liberal arts focused, so I'm going to look at these colleges, and so on and so forth. There's a really good resource that I do want to highlight that I think all of our guidance counseling officers should be using, which is a college scorecard, which you may have heard of. Essentially, the Obama administration, one of the last things that they did before completing their term was to actually make publicly available all this data on colleges. And so you can actually look up things like graduation rates, persistence rates, and you can break that out by first generation student, You can break that out by race and ethnicity, all sorts of things, right? And so this is a really valuable tool in a sense. So you can get a generalization of what are the resources available on campus to students like me. What does a student like me look like in terms of their graduation rates, in terms of their 10-year salary, right? They have this sort of data available and publicly available for every college in the country. So I highly recommend you check that out and share that with your students. Second is obviously the financial piece, right? And so there's a student loan crisis happening nationally. The student loan debt has passed credit card debt, housing debt, and it's incredibly harmful for students to really incur tons and tons of debt so early on. And students can, and for parents who might be listening, this is a really important point too. Parents really have to be involved in this situation because students can sign promissory notes without their parents necessarily knowing and be on the hook for tens of thousands of dollars in student loan debt. So the financial piece is incredibly important, and I really, really encourage students to really talk about this. Schools should be talking about this. Schools should be encouraging the parents in the school to talk to their children about this, really making sure that as a community, we're not strapping ourselves with tons and tons of school debt. And you can think about all the implications of what school debt might, all the implications that school debt might have in terms of just delaying your life in terms of getting married, in terms of pushing down all sorts of milestones further down the line until this debt is paid off. And so, just something to think about. There are some rules that we share, or some guidelines, I should say, in the Muslim College Guide that are important to think about. Some college experts recommend not taking out more than $7,000 of school loan debt to pursue an undergraduate degree a year. That's just one guideline, but it helps to think about, what are some of your personal, guideposts in terms of how much debt you want to incur for an undergraduate degree. So really, I just want to emphasize the financial aspect. And then last and most importantly, what we're talking about tonight is campus culture. What does it look like to be a Muslim on that college campus? Is there access to a chaplain on that campus? Right? Is there access to halal food on campus? Right? Is there a prayer space? Is there a wudu space? And all these sorts of things are important to think about. And I really, really encourage you. One of the goals with the Muslim Campus Life Project is for us to think about this more proactively, and for us as a community to really advocate for our needs. Right? There's a huge wave happening across higher ed for diversity and inclusion. And this diversity is there's diversity offices that are being established. I see the question in the chat. I'll get to it in just a second, inshallah. But there's diversity offices being established to serve different student needs, and our community is often very silent in terms of what we're looking for and what we need. And a lot of times, we are happy to suffer in silence in the sense that we don't advocate for our needs, or we're just happy to be on campus. We're happy with an acceptance letter, and we don't expect more beyond that. And I think that's really something that we have to think about more deeply and reconsider. In terms of just what we advocate for. A lot of universities have the budgets to provide us with halal food, with chaplains, with all sorts of things. And so if we don't speak up, we're not going to be given those things. So in this regard, there is a resource that we're developing, which I'll share in the chat as well, called the Muslim Index, or the Muslim College Index, which is just trying to document what resources are available for students at certain colleges. And so is there access to a chaplain, a Muslim chaplain? Is there access to halal food? Is there access to a prayer space? Is there access to a Jummah prayer, right? All these sorts of things are important things that we should be thinking about. And I can go and share story after story about why this is really important, from both the tragic and the good. But it's just something that we have to just be more proactive about as a community. And I'm really excited to have Dr. Nisa here to kind of jump into that further from the perspective of a chaplain. So we got a question about what is a chaplain, and before I hand it off, I'll just jump in really quickly. So a lot of times there are chaplains on staff to help certain groups. So there might be a Jewish chaplain, a Christian chaplain, and more recently we've seen the rise of Muslim chaplains on college campuses. And some people like to think of it as an imam, but I would say it's more of someone. Dr. Nisa can go into it more, but essentially this is, in my opinion, someone who's dedicated to the Muslim students on campus and can be their advocate to the higher ed administration, be the advocate on behalf of the students to the professors, and so on and so forth. And so, traditionally you have like an MSA, right? And we're all familiar with that. And there might be an MSA president, but that's also a fellow student, right? Who's going to graduate in a few years. This is not someone who's there over time, who's dedicated to serving the Muslim community on the college campus. And so there's just a different I would say, richness of the experience of having a chaplain on campus. And with that, I'll stop talking. I'll pass it off to Dr. Nisa.
Thank you so much, Brother Salman. That was really informative and lots of details and resources there in the chat. I do encourage you all to check that out. Inshallah, we'll send an email with all of these resources compiled. Take a look at the Muslim Campus Life Muslim College Guide. Really, really great advice from chaplains as well. And thank you so much, Sabah, for your question about asking what is a Muslim chaplain or what is a chaplain. So here, actually, we have our Muslim chaplain joining us today. This is Dr. Nisa Muhammad, Assistant Dean for Religious Life at Howard University. We are so excited to have her joining us. She's also the exiting president of the Association of Muslim Chaplains, mashallah. Dr. Nisa Muhammad is responsible for religious programming, advocates for the religious needs of Muslim students, teaches non-academic classes in the Islamic tradition, and works closely as a part of the staff in the Office of the Dean of the Chapel to foster interfaith dialogue and cooperation. She's also an advisor to the MSA at Howard University, and we are so thrilled to have Dr. Nisa join us to talk about Muslim chaplains and community on campus, as well as to address some of those maybe touchy questions that some people might have about, what do I do if this happened or that happened? So Dr. Nisa, we really look forward to your presentation. Jazakallah khair for joining us today.
Assalamu alaikum. So I am so thrilled and so excited to be a part of this. And, it's such a necessary thing to do for high schoolers to really talk about what is happening on college campuses. So the good news is that there are a lot more Muslim chaplains on college campuses. The bad news is they're not enough. And so if you're looking for how to have the best religious life experience on your college campus, then you absolutely want to look for a college or university that has a Muslim chaplain. So where do you find a college or campus that has one? You want to look on the campus under religious life. And you want to see what does that religious life have to offer. And so Muslim chaplains are on college campuses under a variety of different names. So my work is couched under the title Assistant Dean for Religious Life. So my exact title is not Muslim chaplain, but that is encompassed in my responsibilities. And so just what exactly is a chaplain and what do I do? So Salman talked a little bit about what we do. I advocate for the needs of Muslim students, not only the students, but I also work for the needs of staff and faculty as well. So if they have issues and concerns that they need addressed, I am the one they go to as well. And so, but also sometimes they're called the director of Muslim life on a campus, or they are responsible for Muslim life. And so sometimes they are specifically called the Muslim chaplain. They have a variety of titles. And so we are like, as Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was the shepherd over the flock. So we are like the shepherds over the people that we are responsible for. We are the hand holders for our students, faculty, staff, during a specific period of time while they are on campus. The 4 years that they are there, sometimes 5, is a very exciting time in a young person's life. They come one way, they leave another way. I tell parents that the students that they drop off are in the formative process of changing their mind. Students come there one way, they leave another way. And chaplains have an exciting responsibility and exciting opportunity to be a part of this changing process that students do. And so, as I mentioned before, look under the campus in terms of religious life. And so if religious life is what you are interested in, then absolutely look for a school that has a Muslim chaplain, because it can be very difficult to advocate for yourself in terms of what you are looking for in terms of a prayer space, which is very important. I was just talking to a young person at a university today, and in her 4 years on campus as a senior now, she has finally found and worked to have a prayer space for the Muslim students. in the student center. It took them 4 years to be able to do this. The university where she is does not have a Muslim chaplain, but it took them 4 years of negotiating and working with the administration to get a place to pray. And sometimes it does take that long, but the advocacy, the work, they had the stick-to-itiveness and the perseverance to work to be able to do that. So religious life is absolutely possible if you work to it. Now, some people are like, you know what? I'm going to find a place to pray. I'm going to pray in my room. I'm going to do that, but I'm just not that interested in working that hard to do that. But the thing is, we are social beings and we want a communal life and we want that kind of community. And so the Muslim Students Association, if it is vibrant and active on the campus where you are headed to, do a campus visit. I always tell students, do a campus visit and check out the MSA. Is the MSA the kind of organization that is a good fit for you? Are these people the kind of people you are? The student I was talking to, I asked her, I said, are these your people? Are these kind of people like you? And she was like, well, not really. They're all STEM people. I'm another kind of major people. So they're not really my people, but I kind of associate with them, but they're not really my people because they're all STEM people. But that's fine too. They associate on other kinds of levels. But check and see, is the MSA the kind of place where you want to hang out? Are these the kind of students that you want to be a part of? But realize they're only there for 4 years and people have waves of interest. This group may be STEM 1 year, they may be humanities another year, they may be into something else the next year. But you want to make sure that when you are there, that these are the kind of people that you want to be around with, you want to be around, and you can be a part of what's happening on that campus, or these are the kind of people that you can make something happen with on the campus. Let's say they don't have the kind of prayer space that you think is adequate. You can organize them and you can become the leader to instill and make a prayer space on that campus. You can bring halal dining to the campus. This year, Ramadan is during the academic year. It's the first time it's been a part of the academic school year since I've been at Howard University. We are so excited. We are doing all kinds of amazing things on campus to let the campus know Ramadan is here. We are having a door decorating contest. The students are decorating their doors in their dorms. They're decorating their doors at home. And we are taking pictures, and our Interfaith Advisory Council are the judges for the dorm decorating contest. We want the campus to know, you want to make sure that the religious holidays are not just something that is just for the Christians. No, you want to make sure that the Muslim holidays, the 2 Eids, are also announced and celebrated campus-wide. So soon, I was talking to the administration at Howard. They're going to be announcing Ramadan, the start of Ramadan, so that the campus knows it's Ramadan. Get ready. When it's time for the Eid, announcement will go campus-wide that it's Ramadan. For the first time, the students were asking me about where's the nearest place they can go for Tawweeh prayers. I was like, Tawweeh prayers? We'll have Tawweeh prayers right on campus. You don't have to go anywhere. So because I want them to know we are establishing Islam on campus. These are the kind of things you want to inquire about when you are looking for a place to go to school. And the thing is, are these things important to you? You may not be interested in Tawweeh prayers. You may have done that at home. You may be trying to get away from Tawweeh prayers because now you're away at school. But if this is what you are interested in, you want to make sure you want to have your checklist, not your parents' checklist. You want to have your checklist. What are you interested in for school? What are you interested in terms of establishing your religion, confirming your religion, affirming your religion as a Muslim? What do you want to have to make sure that when you go away to school, you are the best Muslim you can be? Make sure all of these things happen on your campus because Ramadan is increasingly more and more and more during the academic school year. And you want to make sure that these are the things that are happening on the campus. Is there halal dining? Is there single sex dorm so that you are not in a co-ed dorm environment? Is there roommate matching? Can you pick your roommate? Can you make sure that you have a Muslim roommate? And if you do get assigned another roommate, can you switch? Can you make sure that your roommate is switching? Now at Howard University, swimming is is a mandatory requirement. And that, I don't know if it is like that on other campuses, but because Black people are more prone to drown because we don't swim a lot, because once upon a time, pools were illegal for Black people to go to because of racism. Black people couldn't go to pools. And so it took a long time for Black people, for pools to open up, for Black people to go to pools. So Black people did not learn how to swim as readily as other groups of people. So Howard University has a mandatory swim requirement for students, but a lot of Muslim girls are very reluctant to go swimming because they can't find the right thing to wear. They're very shy sometimes about what to wear. And so for the longest time, it was like, can I get a religious exemption for swimming? But I'm like, why don't you want to learn how to swim? There are all kinds of things that are out there now, fashionable bikinis that women people can wear for swimming, but they're still sometimes kind of shy about going to the pool to swim in a co-ed swimming class. So I have worked on an arrangement now where there's an exchange for another class that our students can do if they don't want to swim, so that we can work that out, because I can let people know we can do some kind of a religious exemption in exchange for swimming. And this is what the chaplain can do to advocate on behalf of the needs for Muslim swimming. I had a student that came to me who was on a softball scholarship and was just getting all kind of grief from the softball coach because of fasting during Ramadan. And the softball coach really didn't understand, about fasting. Well, why can't you drink? You just worked out. You really should drink some water to hydrate. What are you talking about? You're fasting, you can't drink. And so the coach didn't understand, didn't know about, fasting. And so instead of the students saying, we need to educate my coach, the student was like, you know what, I'm just going to give up this softball scholarship and I'm just going to not do it because it's just too much of a hassle and I would rather just be a Muslim. I was like, wait a minute, I do not think your parents would be happy you giving up a softball scholarship. We're just going to do some professional development and educate the athletic department about Ramadan. This is how we're going to handle this. This is the job of the chaplain. This is the job of the assistant dean for religious life. And this is how we intercede to make life easier for the Muslim students. So I think I have about done my time and I am passing this baton on to Brother Faisal. I think he's next at the amazing and wonderful Zaytuna College.
Jazakallah khair, Sister Nisa, Dr. Nisa, thank you so much for that wonderful presentation that really, first of all, reminds us that Ramadan is increasingly coming into the school year, something that I wasn't thinking about right now, but subhanAllah brings even more direct, very concrete reason for the importance of a Muslim chaplain, in addition to just having somebody that you can trust and look to for all kinds of guidance and all kinds of questions that you'll have when you're on campus, whether you're living on campus or at home and commuting. A Muslim chaplain or any chaplain is there to provide you with religious guidance, inshallah. Of course, a Muslim chaplain would be coming from the Islamic standpoint. So thank you so much, Dr. Nisa. At this point now, we'd like to have Brother Faisal Hamid joining us. MashaAllah, Brother Faisal is the Director of Admissions and Financial Aid at Zaytuna College, in addition to many other hats that he wears. So he can provide a lot of information. Zaytuna College, as some of you may know, is, I believe, the only accredited liberal arts, Islamic liberal arts college in the United States. So he can correct me if I'm wrong there. He is also, mashallah, a PhD candidate at Oxford University and received his MA from Johns Hopkins University and his BA from Yale University. He was previously a strategy consultant at Deloitte. So I guess he's changed and shifted focus here, mashallah. Brother Faisal is going to be speaking about how liberal arts colleges can support student growth. So Brother Faisal, Jazakallah khair for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Please let me know if there are any technical issues. I'll just, okay, great, mashallah. Great, so pleasure to be here. And just wanted to, before I begin, just wanted to echo what Dr. Nisa's points. I went to a college with a Muslim chaplain and it changed everything for me. So yes, please pay attention to what she's saying. So inshallah, today I want to talk about a particular choice which you can make on college, and that's what type of school in a macro level you want to choose for yourself or for your students. And there are few choices which are more important than planning your education. And when making that choice, it's helpful to have a framework. And of course, the most excellent framework with which we can have is from our divine tradition. A liberal arts education comes from a methodology which is not only from our tradition, the Muslim intellectual tradition, but also common to the Christian tradition and other faith communities. What was called the liberal arts in the West, which comes from the Latin root for free, in the Muslim tradition was called ad-dirasat al-jami'a, which means comprehensive studies. And fundamental to a liberal arts education is an argument, which is that the purpose of an education is to acquire the tools of learning to empower you on your own discovery of truth. And that empowerment of the tools has traditionally been encapsulated in two systems, the trivium and the quadrivium. The trivium includes the sciences of grammar, logic, and rhetoric. And the quadrivium includes the sciences of arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. So these tools were not ends to themselves, but they were a means for the student to master them and then use them in their own path. So one principle I want to share from the beginning is that a liberal arts education empowers students to do amazing things with those tools in their profession of choice. A very common question that I get asked is, what can a student do after gaining a liberal arts education? And a cliche way to answer that is, what can't you do? And really, how I like to answer that is, having a liberal arts education helps you do better later on, and I'll inshallah speak more about that. So today there are different types of liberal arts institutions in the country. So you have classic liberal arts schools such as Williams and Amherst, and these have traditionally had a strong Christian tradition, but that's changed in recent years. These schools tend to be smaller on average. They tend to have a smaller faculty to teacher ratio, and they tend to have a very strong undergraduate focus, as opposed to larger institutions which have a more even graduate undergraduate split. And having a strong undergraduate focus makes a big impact on a student's experience. Other larger schools, private schools such as Yale and Harvard, also were founded on a liberal arts approach. Now, if you look back into the history of these institutions, as they have secularized, their approach to the liberal arts has also changed. And today, oftentimes their approach includes a requirement to take classes outside your major, and also the flexibility to take classes throughout the university. And I want to speak on that because I believe that type of exposure is very empowering. So I know that some students have a STEM interest or a particular interest and may be thinking, why would taking classes outside of STEM be helpful? And what we find is that after college, once students get jobs, at the junior levels, those jobs are highly technical. But as they rise and become become leaders in their organizations, skills such as writing and research and critical thinking outside their discipline become more and more important. And that's one reason why we often see that the most senior people at institutions, even scientific institutions, oftentimes have liberal arts educations, because those individuals are the most capable of tackling problems with a diverse set of skills. Now, I want to speak to a bit about what we're doing now in the future, or now and going forward. So at Zaytuna and some other institutions in the country, what we're trying to do is restore a holistic liberal arts education grounded in a faith tradition. So just an anecdote. So Sister Shaza mentioned that I'm currently doing a PhD at Oxford, and many of our institutions in America have inherited a tradition from Oxford and Cambridge, and Oxford and Cambridge inherited their tradition from the Muslim world. At Oxford, Oxford is made up of many different colleges, and each college has a chapel, has a dorm, and has a dining hall. And of course, those three pillars were the pillars of a traditional madrasa. However, in the past 100 years, the chapel has lost impact. So therefore, one key element of an education has been arguably emaciated. So Zaytuna is trying to revive a holistic approach from a Muslim tradition. Thomas Aquinas College is one that's trying to revive it from a Christian tradition. St. John's is one that's trying to do it not from a faith tradition, but trying to go back to the roots of a classic liberal arts approach. And at Zaytuna, we heavily emphasize the three pillars of the trivium, grammar, logic, and rhetoric, which were historically the foundations of a Muslim education. And when I say Muslim education, I don't only mean Islamic scholarly education, but the education of our greats of our past, who then went on to found so many of our sciences which we enjoy today. And I truly believe that these tools are the arts of freedom, where grammar is our greatest good, logic makes us capable of recognizing truth and falsehood, and rhetoric enables us to transmit beauty. And by mastering these arts, we can embark on the discovery of the absolute by light of reason. And that results in what in the Islamic tradition is called ma'rifah, or perception. And in that perception, that ma'rifah is where we can find peace and understanding. So just to summarize, the ambition of a liberal arts education is quite vast. It's more than just getting a degree to learn to do something, to learn a trade, but really it's to gain the tools to open your mind. And our minds are a great gift given to us by God. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Brother Faisal. Really appreciate you joining us and speaking about the benefit of a liberal arts college. I actually didn't realize.
I think you cut out. Or is that just for me?
Yeah, we can't hear you.
Oh, can you guys hear me now?
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry, got to pull this out of from under my hijab. All right, so some stuff hidden underneath there. All right, I guess my earbuds gave up. I was just commenting on how much I learned from Brother Faisal, mashallah, on a liberal arts college, and didn't realize so much of that. Jazakallah khair for that very enriching presentation.
Can I just ask a follow-up question, if that's okay?
Yeah, of course, go for it.
Can you just share what have some of the graduates of Zaytuna done in recent years post earning a Zaytuna degree?
Sure. So we have a few key paths. So one path is further graduate studies. So our students have gone on to a variety of different graduate programs. So medical schools, law schools, PhD programs. And I just want to comment that these students have done really well because they have this classical approach. Just an anecdote, one of our, some of our students have gone on to top PhD programs, and one director of a PhD program at a top 10 university called our president and told him that our students are his best students because they have this approach. We also have a number of our students going on to serving in the community as chaplains, as teachers, as scholars, and we're very proud of them because they're doing their work with the training that we offer them. So I would say those are the two key paths, along with many others.
Thank you so much. And since we are asking you a question, we're going to ask one more question too, Faisal, that I see here in the chat, and then we'll go on to Sister Salmah. So briefly, Brother Faisal, what is your advice for someone who wants to attend Zaytuna or a similar Islamic path, but also wants to complete other degrees? Do they first go to Zaytuna and then, or should they do it the other way around? What's your suggestion?
Sure. So we have many students come to us with a prior BA degree. Now, typically that happens because they went to a different college and they weren't satisfied with their education. So they want to come to Zaytuna afterwards. However, sometimes they take a few years of college outside, particularly those students who are interested in medical school, to finish their prereqs and then come to us. So actually, just my advice would be to contact us, and I'd be happy to speak with you and inshallah learn your interests, and we can have a deeper conversation. And my email is easy@admission.zaytuna.edu.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much, Brother Faisal. And I do encourage actually all of our panelists to go ahead and drop their email addresses if you're okay with that, because I think that one other thing I'd love to talk about in the Q&A with Dr. Nisa also is attending a historically Black university, which we know is Howard University. So some really important information to be gleaned from our panelists in addition to what they've already spoken about. But we don't want to take away from our Islamic school alumni here who's joining us as a panelist. We have Sister Salmah Abdulbaseer, who is a graduate of a full-time Islamic school in Chicago, Islamic Foundation School, mashallah, and she is currently a third-year medical student at University of Illinois at Chicago, and is a member of the Islamic Foundation community in Chicago. So she's a graduate from there. She went K through 12. She received her BA in psychology and has been involved in research about Muslim American health through the Initiative on Islam and Medicine, and has volunteered extensively with Muslim Women's Alliance at and UICMSA. So we're really excited to hear from her about how can Muslim students who are interested in maintaining their faith commit to Muslim life on campus. What are your suggestions, Sister Salmah? And I know you've got a lot to share with us. We're excited to hear your presentation. And friends, thank you all so much for joining us again tonight. We encourage you to go ahead and start putting your questions in the chat. And Sister Salmah, after your presentation, we'll go ahead and open up to Q&A. Jazakallah khair.
All right, assalamu alaikum everyone. Jazakallah khairan for the introduction. So we'll just get right into it. So committing to Muslim life on campus. So first of all, why am I guess, in a position to even be speaking about this? So like Sister Shaza mentioned, I went to a full-time Islamic school, attended K through 12, graduated a couple of years ago, and then worked to start a youth group at my masjid. I was also the MSA president at my local university, and UIC, for those of you who probably don't know, it's 15% Muslim, and we do not have a Muslim chaplain. So that was something that we had to navigate on our own. And currently I'm in my third year of med school and do research about Muslims in healthcare. So Islam and incorporating it into whatever stage of life that I'm in has definitely been at the backbone of just my entire being, I think. So, all right. So first of all, I think it's really important to recognize, what does it mean to be Muslim in college, right? For the students that are listening, and for those of you who are administrators or parents, think about, for the children that you're thinking of, what does it mean for them to be Muslim? And it's going to be vastly different for everyone, right? So it could be a way of life. It's a set of values, a set of rules. Everyone's going to practice differently, right? A lot of it comes from the community that they come from. A lot of it comes from, the family style that you've had, the teachings that you've had growing up, your access to a community, going to an Islamic school, going to a Sunday school. And so some things to think about are going to be, how will you factor in prayer and other acts of worship, be it like reading Quran, dhikr, into your daily routine, into your weekly routine? Is there a bathroom that you can do wudu in? Does your school have halal food options, or are there local halal restaurants nearby? And then finally, who do you want to spend your time with? And these are just pictures from my local MSA that we've taken over the years. So the reason why I say, who do you want to spend your time with? Committing to Muslim life is really important. The Prophet ﷺ was reportedly asked which of our companions are best. And so he replied, one whose appearance reminds you of God, and whose speech increases you in knowledge, and whose actions remind you of the hereafter. So it's rooted in our religion and the deen that, company is really important, right? So committing to Muslim life isn't just about being social. It's not about being popular at your university or college. It's about committing to something that, we've been asked to do. It's about committing to something that will bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and ultimately, guide us and supplement in our journey to attaining Jannah, inshallah. So what are the best ways for students to get involved with Muslim life? The speakers have mentioned many different ones. So for example, attending Jummah on campus, right? Wherever there's a prayer space available, you'll find that there's going to be a congregation of students. Joining the MSA, so seeking leadership opportunities, joining on in like, for example, some MSAs will be hosting like religious classes, joining in on those, meeting Muslim students in your classes or extracurriculars, especially certain extracurricular organizations will cater to Muslim needs. Maybe it's not religiously affiliated, but they'll have like a lot more Muslim students, or they'll be like grounded around service, and you'll find a lot of Muslim students will flock there. If your school has one, establish a relationship with the Muslim chaplain. We've heard extensively about the benefits of having one. And so that would definitely be a really great place to start. And if you're not from the area, maybe joining the local mosque or attending programming with their youth group. I think that's really important, and it'll get you an opportunity to get to know the people that are local to that community. And each of these, serves individually or all together to kind of involve yourself, commit yourself to a Muslim community at your university. So my experience with Muslim life in college. So my first year, I was starting to attend MSA programming. And so I came from a really small school, right? I went to an Islamic school. My graduating class was around 40, 50 kids. We grew up with them my entire life. And when I went to UIC, there was like 20, 30,000 students. And so I kind of just had to figure out, how do I go from being a big fish in a small pond to a very, very, very small fish. And so I kind of, and I knew growing up with Muslims that this was kind of like who I was comfortable with, who I shared values with. And so I sat in areas where I knew Muslim kids were. I would attend Jummah, and I would start to make Muslim friends in college, in my classes. My second year, I decided to run for the MSA board, took up a position there, and began to host like mini halakas or just like restaurant outings. I would continue to attend Jummah, and I would continue to spend time with my Muslim friends, whether it be going out to eat at a halal restaurant or just exploring the city that we had. My final year, I decided to run again for MSA board, this time for president. And I continued to host programming, attending Jummah. And then one of the big things that we got to do was, because every university is on a spectrum in terms of how much Muslim accommodation they can provide. When with my university being 15% Muslim, having no chaplain, we knew that the next step, at least if we can't figure out the chaplain piece, is to figure out how we can get prayer space. And so a lot of my time went to lobbying for a prayer room for a larger Jummah venue and wudu stations on campus. We ended up receiving an award on behalf of the MSA for a week that we do called Discover Islam Week. And I made lifelong friendships with friends that I think, alhamdulillah, like still remain close to my heart today. So that was when we received that award. And so why is this important to me? Right? And why should this be important to you? Spending time with like-minded individuals who share similar beliefs and values will only strengthen your own values, will only strengthen your own faith. It's really nice to have other peers, other like-minded individuals to navigate college with. We all know, and there's so much research that shows that college represents these formative years in your life where you're figuring out your identity, you're navigating mental health challenges, you're navigating through what you want for the rest of your life, and for us, that'll be religiously, that will be physically, like career-wise. And so to have folks that can kind of walk through those steps of life with you that get it is really important. And for me also, finding a new purpose, raising awareness about our community and our unique needs was really important, and something I found that was necessary as I got through college. So what would my recommendations be? So speaking to administrators, parents, or students, number one, look into your MSA. A lot of stereotypes get created, but take those with a grain of salt and explore it for yourself. So maybe go to an event. If there's something that you don't like, maybe you can be the change. There were things that I felt like I could change. And so when I got more involved, I decided to try to do that. And I've seen peers do the same thing. And if there isn't something already established, maybe try to make it yourself. It takes one person to start something, and who knows, a couple years from now, you'll have hundreds of people in your MSA. Remember that everyone's different, right? In this community, no one is going to be practicing the same way as you, the same level as you, and that's okay. It's all about the journey, and my connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala might not be the same as another person, but our deen binds us together. So lean on these folks when you need to. And good company is really important, but so is doing good in school. I know my parents would have wanted me to say that more than anything. And so balance these right? But trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether it is making friends, whether it is doing good in your classes, whether it is being on top of whatever you prioritize, going to the gym, eating X, Y, and Z. Those are all really important. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, like He does everything for a reason. So understand that. And finally, find a mentor. Perhaps it's a Muslim chaplain, perhaps it's someone else, in your community that you can confide in about your journey. College is going to be a time where there's so much change, like I've mentioned, and it's nice to have someone that you can anchor onto and continue that path with, which is why seeing and having a Muslim chaplain at your university was something that I think if I could go back and just have, I would definitely have wanted to have it. And these are some events that my MSA did in the last couple of years that I was a part of it. So my major takeaways. Number one, strive to maintain good company in college. If you have the intention, actions will follow. Those that bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will do wonders for you now, but they will also do wonders for you in the hereafter. The friends that I made in college, the ones that I went to Jummah with, the ones that I went to these halal restaurants with, those are the things that we still continue to do. And I know only khair comes from it. My parents are a lot more lenient when we're going out because they know that these are the folks that will only continue to bring me closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And number two, this is not easy, right? Everyone is equally overwhelmed by all the life changes coming. So take it one day at a time. I know when I started college and when a lot of my friends started college, when we started going our separate ways, we were really nervous about what was to come in terms of making friends, and you don't want to be alone when you're going through this, but you will find the right company eventually. It might take 1 month, it might take a few months, but think of those moments as times that you're building yourself so that the right company can come along too. So inshallah, I think that was all that I had. So I think we can get started with the Q&A. Jazakallah khairan.
Thank you so much, Salma. That was so inspiring. And I really love that hadith that you shared with us, the reminders about keeping good company. So, whether you're a Muslim student coming from a public school, homeschool, or high school or private Islamic school, I think that those reminders are really phenomenal, mashallah. Jazakallah khair. Thank you so much. I'm going to actually ask you to stop the share, or I'll go ahead and do that. And we'll just ask you all to go ahead and does anyone have any questions that you would like to unmute or raise your hand, type in the chat? Mashallah, you have some really wonderful speakers and panelists here from all kinds of different institutions. Do you have any other questions about choosing a school? Or are you an administrator who would like to know more about some resources for your students? So inshallah, of course, yes, we will be recording this. We are recording this, and we are going to be sending you the recording. Inshallah, we'll upload it onto YouTube and we'll send it to you in the next few days, inshallah, all of the registrants. And we invite you to share it with others as well, inshallah. The slides, the resources, inshallah, we'll post all of that. I saw that Dr. Seema had asked a question about what are some reading that you might advise students to do before coming or before making the decision to come. So I know Brother Salman shared some really awesome links. Brother Salman, maybe you want to post that again. I know that we had people coming in throughout the program. I think that those are really good places to start. Does anyone else have any recommendations for anything else? Any other kind of research that folks can do?
Just as a recommendation, so something that many of our students read is a book called How to Read a Book, which Sheikh Hamza has done a number of presentations on. And I mentioned that because college requires a new set of skills to succeed, and reading is fundamental to that. So that's one recommendation that I do have.
So Faisal, is that like speed reading, or like I haven't read this book? Like, where has it been all my life? I didn't know about it. Tell me, give us the 1 minute cliff note.
Sure. So no, it's not speed reading. It's how to read so that one can actually understand what the author is conveying. So that's the 10-second cliff note.
All right, you beat me on even my request. All right, mashallah, I'll have to check it out. Okay, so we have another question related, and then I got a direct message, which I will not read your name, but I'll read the question. Let me ask Naz's question since it relates, and especially since, you know, Faisal, Salman, you guys are both admissions directors or have been in the past. What's the best way for a student or a parent to find out about the Muslim life in college before deciding where to go? Do you strongly recommend, so in addition to those resources, Salman, that you've shared, do you recommend anything else that people should do before making that final decision?
Yeah, I can just jump in quickly. I think what Dr. Nisa said earlier, reaching out and talking to the chaplain, talking to students. If you have a specific college in mind, sometimes the administrators may not, or the admissions office may not even know about some of the amazing resources that the Muslim chaplain or director has prepared. So I would reach out directly to and you can find a lot of the emails for MSAs or chaplains online. And so I would reach out directly to them first and foremost. And I think one point I wanted to make earlier actually about the distance from home, a lot of times parents don't feel comfortable with their children going off to college, maybe further away from home. And I think one of the caveats I'll say is having a chaplain on campus does often give parents a little bit of solace because there's an adult who they can contact, they have their cell phone number, they can reach out to, and they can find out what's going on with their child, and they can have a direct line of communication with someone at the college. And so I know a lot of parents who feel a little bit better, right? They still might be hesitant, as all parents are, but they might feel a lot better about having a chaplain on campus.
Dr. Nisa, you give out your cell phone number?
Reluctantly. Reluctantly. Yeah, reluctantly.
I can only imagine the Muslim parents calling you like, is my son in his dorm room? He won't pick up.
I know. That's why I say reluctantly. That's why I say reluctantly. I mean, I have, and I regret it every time.
Do you live on campus, Dr. Nisa? Does the Muslim chaplain live on campus? What's the living arrangement? Okay.
No.
Okay.
That's why I say reluctantly.
Okay. But still, you're that kind of liaison, that point of contact, that trusted person for both the student as well as the parent. Good to know.
Yes, but I remind parents, I'm not the haram police. You know, I'm not. I'm not the haram police, and I'm not the one to call to say, is my child doing A, B, C, and D? And I'm like, ask your child. You know, I'm not the one to say yay or nay. You know, your child is 18 years old, they're legally an adult, you know, unless they're underage. And sometimes we have students that come at 16, you know, they're advanced or whatever. So that if they're underage, then I can perhaps say, but if they're 18 and they're coming to college, I mean, they're an adult, you know, they can legally say what it is they're doing. I'm not, and I'm totally not the haram police, no.
Good point. So like a chaplain isn't going to be like, you know, like the Islamic studies teacher at the high school who's like also checking in and like, hey, you know, you haven't been praying or showing up. Like, it's not necessarily that kind of pastoral role.
No, and I think that's the difference between the chaplain and the imam, where the imam is going to, you know, someone's going to go to the imam for the yay or nay about a situation. Give me, imam, give me the advice. I want to know, is this haram or is this halal? Whereas the chaplain is going to do, as Salmah said, you know, is this taking me away from Allah or is this bringing me closer to Allah? Because if I stay in my dorm and I watch football all day and I miss my prayers, now football is not haram, but it's taking me away from Allah. You know, that behavior is taking me away from Allah, but it's not a haram behavior to watch football.
That's right.
And so my job as a chaplain is to bring that perspective and to bring that understanding that we want to live a life that brings us closer to Allah. And it's not about the halal and haram all the time, but it's about what are we doing that is bringing us closer to Allah, as opposed to what are we doing that's taking us away from Allah.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nisa. Brother Faisal, do you recommend people coming out and visiting the university or college to get a sense of that Muslim college life? I mean, and Salmah also mentioned, you know, all of you all have mentioned like looking for the chaplain, looking for, these are things you can look online. But when you do go and visit, what are you looking for? How do you get that vibe? How do you know?
Absolutely. So obviously for Zaytuna students come and visit us all the time. And I can speak about when I was choosing colleges. I went out to the college and I made friends actually when I did that, and those friends were very useful to me when I actually showed up in the fall. Undergrads are very open, and so if you make a few contacts during the visit, those contacts are critical, and then can also be allies a few months later once you've chosen.
So someone asked in a direct message, how do you recommend finding Muslim roommates?
Roommates. So sometimes they have roommate matching services at the university. Universities, you can identify what kind of roommate you're looking for.
So is that a question they can ask, Dr. Nisa?
Yeah,
they can say
yeah.
when they're looking online, or do they call up the admissions officer and they say, hi, do you have a roommate matching service? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, when you're looking for a roommate, you can identify what factors you're looking for in a roommate. You can say, I want to stay in a single sex dorm, I want to stay in a girls dorm, I'm looking for a Muslim roommate, those kind of things that you can pair.
Okay, so they do have that kind of information on like other Muslims, like they'll ask that kind of demographic info.
Yes. Yes. And there's another question for me. What is the role of a chaplain with mental health? I mean, mental health services and chaplaincy kind of go hand in hand. So at the beginning of the year, a lot of historically Black colleges and universities got a series of bomb threats. And Howard University got about 4 or 5 different bomb threats. And typically my students are pretty resilient and they're not coming to me looking for mental health services, but the bomb threats got them coming to me looking for mental health services. And so I was referring them to our counseling center where we have a good relationship with them. And for mental health services, they wanted to talk to somebody about the anxiety and the stress that they were feeling as a result of having to hear, okay, don't come to campus right away. We have a bomb threat. The police are on campus now doing this dog sweep of the buildings because of bomb threats. And so there is a close relationship between what the chaplain does and mental health services. It's a direct connection because of what we do.
And you know, I know, Salman, you said that you could answer this offline, but I think that this is really important, especially as ISLA is a host of this organization, of this event. And we have many individuals who are joining from what are typically very small Islamic high schools. And so I believe that reputation of schools also has a role to play in admissions. So it seems that they're asking from that perspective, are there any tips, resources, or strategies for students applying to college when coming from a very small Islamic high school, which might not have a long-standing reputation because they're new, they just started their Islamic school. So like, how can those, first of all, for the administrators, what can those schools do to make it better for the students, easier, or like improve their rates of admission? And what kind of advice can they give those students? All of that.
Yeah, this is there's so many levels to this question. And that's why it's difficult to answer in a short period of time. What I would say is, you know, think about the types of colleges that you are considering for your students and what type of universities you want them to attend, whether those are elite universities, local state universities, community colleges, whatever it might be. And so I would take a step back and really plan that out first. You know, what it takes to get students to a state school with a full scholarship looks very different than what it takes to get into, you know, a Yale or Stanford or wherever. And so those nuances matter a lot in the admissions process. And I'm saying this as someone who's worked for an elite university in their admissions process and have witnessed it. So I think that really is important to think about. And then after that, you know, thinking about what you can offer your students in terms of preparing for the college application process. You know, for now, we don't need to worry about test prep. Many colleges have announced that they're going to go test optional until 2026. And so, you know, that's maybe a breath of fresh air for some Islamic high schools and students. But I would think about, you know, GPA, for example, right? And a lot of times I think we struggle with our high schools specifically. We might offer AP classes, but our students are getting A's in the AP classes, let's say AP biology, for example. But then when it comes to the AP test, our students are not performing well, right? And so that can be a negative signal to a college because you get all of your students are taking AP bio, they're all getting A's, but then none of them are passing or scoring a 4 or 5 on the test, right? And so that can be a red flag of maybe you guys are in grades, or maybe you're doing those sorts of things. And admissions officers are thinking about these things. So I would just be careful about the signals that you're presenting. And I'm saying this from a place of love. I've worked with many Islamic schools and high schools specifically around, building their college counseling programs. But I would really think about that. And then in terms of extracurricular opportunities, internships, that sort of thing, what are the types of opportunities that students are getting at your school? One thing that I've seen in terms of trends is a lot of students from Islamic schools specifically will start a new club, and they'll be the founder of XYZ club, put that on their college application, and then they graduate and no one ever picks up that club again. And that's self-serving to a degree for that student. But as a school, I think you should really step in and say, you know what, we really want to build these clubs specifically and make sure our students do really well in them. And we're going to put our resources behind them. And if a student wants to start a club, that's great, but you have to make sure that that's something that other students are also going to pick up on, right? And so, for example, like Model U1 is very common. If you want to have a Model U1 program at your high school, then make it as the best possible Model U1 program that you can, where students are teaching each other year after year and there's knowledge transfer. And over time, the program is getting more competitive and they're winning more awards and that sort of thing. And so that matters to a university in the sense of, are you just saying that you're the founder of a club and not really doing anything? Or are you showing me results in the sense of, wow, this school is winning awards over time, their students are winning outstanding delegate and best delegate, and so on and so forth. And you can apply that logic to other clubs as well. So I would say those are just some very basic level things that can take place that I think might help in terms of reputation. And if there's like serious schools that you want to build relationships with, it doesn't hurt to reach out. I think, if you're an early Islamic school, one or let's say less than 5 years under your belt, probably doesn't make sense to reach out to the most elite university in your backyard, but maybe start with state schools, you talk to them about your students, advocate for your students. I think that's totally acceptable. And so you want to build those relationships as well.
I hear relationships, I hear consistency and excellence over quantity and just, kind of haphazard, non-strategic starting of different things.
Yeah, strategic is a great word in this. Yeah, absolutely. So be strategic in what you're building in terms of your college program.
Now, we do have some students or parents of students who were being homeschooled as well. And we have a specific question that was sent here to me about homeschooling. The brother asks, is there a different kind of admissions process for a school like Zaytuna? That's what he's asking about, particularly from a homeschooling perspective. So if the student was homeschooled, what's different in any college, but in particular, they're asking about Zaytuna, Faisal?
Sure. So in short, we don't have a different process. However, we do take a look at the transcripts more closely because transcripts from homeschool students often come from their homeschool environment, which oftentimes their grades are coming from their parents. And so most homeschool transcripts that I receive are all A's. And that, of course, raises some questions for me. So I often advise homeschool students to seriously consider taking a standardized test. So we're also test optional. However, I want those students to put their best foot forward. And our admissions committee is used to seeing straight A homeschool transcripts. But if that transcript is coupled with a strong standardized test, then the argument or the discussion becomes much shorter. And then we also will look more closely at essays. We interview all of our students. And so in the interview process, we'll also probe more deeply just to make sure that their transcripts actually reflect academic abilities.
Thank you so much, Faisal. I'm just going to take two last questions here. I know that we're getting pretty late for those of you on the East Coast. I know Nisa's like, I got to go to sleep, inshallah. Yeah. I'm on my Ramadan schedule. All right, Sister Linda asked and so Sister Salmah, maybe you can answer this. How can people get a hold of the MSA for a school directly? Maybe this is a parent, maybe it's a student. I don't know. How do they do that?
That's a good question. I think there's a couple ways you can go about it. If you know alumni from that school, that's definitely the first thing I'd recommend. Reaching out to them and seeing how they can connect you with a member of the MSA. A lot of MSAs also have social media pages. So if you look up like Muslim Student Association of, let's say, like UC Irvine. Like you might be able to find a page that way, like a Facebook page, Twitter, whatever. Try all the social medias. They might have a website. Another great way is if you just go directly to the admissions department and you say, what is your Muslim life on campus? Say they don't have a chaplain, then they'll direct you to likely a student group or the faculty advisor for that student group. May or may not be Muslim, but at least they can connect you to the right person.
Thank you so much. That's a really good point. We got social media here that we can check out. And this last question also from Sister Linda, are there any Islamic colleges that combine Islamic studies with other disciplines, degrees such as engineering, health, medical degrees, etc.? Faisal.
Or, I would say that, so as of now, I don't know of any other accredited Muslim undergraduate institution except for Zaytuna. Inshallah, that's not true a few years from now. I think there are some other initiatives, and inshallah, those initiatives have tawfiq. But so as of now, Zaytuna is the only accredited institution. And that being said, our students, of course, gain a grounding in the Islamic scholarly tradition and then go on to do the things that you just mentioned. So they go on to do STEM graduate programs and law school, etc., because they have a liberal arts approach.
Thank you so much, Faisal. And thank you all so much, Dr. Nisa, Brother Faisal, Brother Salman, Sister Salmah. MashaAllah, really learned so much from you all tonight. And I really appreciate you all giving your time and expertise and joining us. I have some requests for additional sessions, inshallah, in the future coming through here in the direct messages. And I do want to let you all know that ISLA is always seeking to partner with other organizations that are experts in this stuff. So we have talked to Zaytuna about certain kinds of workshops, how to write a really good admissions essay and other things that would be of benefit, as well as Muslim College Life founder or Muslim Campus Life founder, Brother Salman Khan as well. And that's actually how we started these conversations. And I look forward to continuing to talk to Dr. Nisa with the Association of Muslim Chaplains and Sister Salmah and other alumni and anyone else out here who's joining us with some expertise or interest to enrich the lives of Muslim students in Islamic schools. That's what we're here for. And we ask Allah to grant us tawfiq, to accept from us our sincere efforts, to bless our panelists and attendees, and to allow all of you, students and parents, leaders who have joined us today, guidance in making the best decisions that will benefit you in this life and the hereafter. I will conclude with Surah Al-Asr and the words of Allah, inshallah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Wal-Asr, inna al-insana lafi khusr, illa alladhina amanu wa amilu salihati wa tawasaw bil-haqqi wa tawasaw bis-sabr. Jazakumullah khairan. Thank you all so much. And we look forward to sending you these resources, inshallah, and connecting with you on more such occasions. Take care. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Nisa. Thank you all, Faisal, Salman, Salma. Assalamu alaikum.